Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, man. I've been waiting for this one for a good minute. We've been gassing this up between the two of us.
Oh, yes.
I don't know how long, but it is good to finally be here at the big episode 100.
100 episodes that we've recorded, and it has been quite the time. A lot has happened since we started the show, because we started the show before 2042 even came out.
Oh, it'd be over 2 years now, wasn't it? It was mid-2021. So,
yeah, a lot has happened. Hey, Vic, how's it going? Looking like a true Coloradan.
Love it.
I try, man. I try. With my gigantic water bottle, I think we're rocking and rolling over here. But today, in this episode, we are going to be talking about all of the news that's been coming out this week, as well as diving deep and doing a little bit of a reaction into some past Battlefield trailers and doing some commentary on how we felt the game has progressed, as well as how it has aged in terms of those early trailers. So let's jump right in. First off, let's talk about anti-cheat. Just get the boring stuff out of the way, and then we'll get into the good, juicy bits.
Yeah.
This was a surprise, because they said that they were doing this a while ago, right? And then
they sort of touched on it, and then we didn't really hear much about it. I kind of forgot, to be honest. I completely forgot that it was even happening, and then I woke up this morning because of all the other stuff that we'll get to as well.
Yeah. What a time.
I had like a million
You have this massive rollout of all of this information, and then you're like, you know what else I'm going to sprinkle in between there?
Yeah.
Anti-cheat update.
Yeah. It almost got lost. Like, it was a weird time for them to actually do that, because
it's probably intentional to hide it. Honestly, I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely got to be intentional in some form or fashion here.
Yeah, I feel like anti-cheat stuff, even though it almost should be a good, or it is a good thing, but it feels like they hide away from it, I guess, because it's just talking about cheating, and it's a taboo topic. So they kind of, it's not just them, it's every company. They're kind of pretty quiet about anti-cheat, which is weird, because anti-cheat is a very good thing that you should be almost promoting, because it's kind of
unless
saying,
you're
like,
a cheater.
don't cheat.
And then it sucks for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But they almost should be proud of it and promote it and stuff, because it is a good thing. But they tend to. I remember, I think it was when they added Ricochet to Warzone. They did gas it up a little bit, but then when it came out, they just went really silent on it, and they weren't actually talking about what it was doing or anything like that. And everyone was a bit like, "Why have you got us all hyped for it?" And then, you're just like hiding it away now all of a sudden. What's wrong?
It's like when you're like an early YouTuber and you've barely produced anything, but you're like talking to your 2 followers on Twitter, and you're like, guys, watch out for Friday, something big's happening.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's like, I also wonder if it's
cooking up something big.
If it's because they're like worried, what if it doesn't work as well as we hope, and then they're going to get backlash for that? Because obviously, I mean, look, the current anti-cheat, I see a lot of people complaining about cheaters. And so it should be better than the current one. I guess it can't really be worse, to be honest. But I wonder if they keep it a bit quiet, because what if they gas up this big new anti-cheat, and then there's like an influx of cheaters or something. So I guess I can see why they keep it a bit quiet, but
yeah, they had an FAQ too. That was, what is EA anti-cheat? It's a kernel mode anti-cheat and anti-tamper solution developed in-house at EA. So this is what they're moving a bunch of their games to. It's something that they've developed and have been working to implement it into more of their things. And it's just a way that they can help to ensure fewer cheaters in a game. It says, as tech-inclined video game... This sentence is rough, man. Like we were talking about how like I hate the term gamers
when you
and
laughed,
video
I knew
gamers.
exactly what you were getting at.
Hey Perry, how's it going? Yeah. As tech-inclined video gamers ourselves.
That's even more cringe when you say video gamers. Like,
how do you do, 60? Fellow kids?
Are we 60 years old?
I too am a video gamer.
I don't even reckon my parents would use such cringy vocabulary. They would not call me a video gamer.
Yes. Yes, my son. He is a video gamer. On the YouTubes. Yeah, they say, as tech-inclined video gamers ourselves, it is important to us to make sure that any kernel anti-cheat included in our games acts with a strong focus on the privacy and security of our gamers that use a PC. Yeah. All of
interesting
it
that
supports
they just
Windows 10 and
PC
11.
Because it is meant to also...
It doesn't affect console gamers because of crossplay.
Yeah. Like, that is a weird way to word that, actually. I guess the privacy and security, I guess they mean, because obviously you don't have an anti-cheat on the Xbox and stuff, so maybe they're talking about having it installed through the games. I'm not sure, but it should be they should be including consoles in there, because if there's cheaters, then I'm also going to get cheated on the Xbox. Like, it's not just a PC issue. So
yeah.
Weird wording. But.
Dan brings up a good point. He says, I'm happy to see better anti-cheat in 2042, but BF5 needs anti-cheat more than 2042 right now. That's a good point. I think those past Battlefield games are definitely not really focused on, except pretty recently they did bring down the servers to add a server level patch, but I think it'd be interesting to see if they do roll this out to BF5 and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you'd want to hope, if they're going to bring all the EA games to it, you would think that it shouldn't just be the currently supported ones. They should bring all of them. I don't know how much work goes into that. It might be too much, but it seems as though it's not even just Battlefield. It's like every shooter or every multiplayer game. The previous titles always get way more cheaters in them, because I guess the cheaters kind of think, we're not, no one's going to be checking.
No more updates to the game, probably.
Yeah, so the previous ones, I remember there was a period there where there was a lot of cheaters in Battlefield 1. It was probably around the time of Battlefield
it was
5.
brutal.
So yeah, that is a good point, that obviously focus on the current one. That's the quote unquote most important Battlefield right now. But the Battlefield 5, people who maybe aren't enjoying 2042 and they wanted to go back to that, if it's just overrun by cheaters, that's not fun for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, after we've discussed the anti-cheat, we've got some more interesting things. Actually, we've got two interesting things. We're going to go with the older news here first, but it's Criterion Games officially is joining the Battlefield team. So Criterion has a pretty vast history in the gaming space when it comes to Battlefield as a franchise, as well as working with DICE. If you recall, in Battlefront 2, they did the Starfighter mode, Starfighter Assault. They did the gameplay on that. And they also developed the Firestorm mode, which we all saw how that went. Nothing wrong with the game itself. It was just they missed the whole point. They tried to ride a trend and they didn't support it and ultimately canceled it.
Yeah, it's pretty rough when you actually think about it like that. That they have made the two things for those games that didn't do very well, yet they were actually really good, and it was more to do with EA and that.
It's not their fault. It's DICE's fault.
But it also makes them look bad, because you go, if you say, if someone says, "Oh, what did they do?" I'm interested to hear more about them joining the Battlefield team, and you go, "Oh, they did Starfighter Assault, which pretty much died straight away, and they did Firestorm, which pretty much died straight away," and it doesn't sound good. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I actually really think Firestorm was very, very well made. It was just the fact that it was behind a paywall. Yeah. And I think Starfighter Assault was one of the best modes in Battlefront. It was just that it was very niche and didn't have a big play base. And for me, I'm not as much of a vehicle person, obviously, so I enjoyed more playing as infantry. But whenever I went and played Starfighter Assault, I always thought like, wow, this is actually a really good game mode. It's just not really
fully
suited to me.
featured for sure.
Yeah, it was probably the most like well done and balanced mode in the whole game, I think.
Oh yeah,
and even at launch, there were so
Easily.
many issues with the game, but that never had any real issues. So yeah, like I think they're a very solid studio. They've also obviously done the Need for Speed games and stuff. So yeah, I'm keen to have them on board, but also they did work on 2042. They've kind of been working on Battlefield already, so it's weird the way
this
that
is
they
like a
announced this.
nothing burger. I guess, because they've been working with EA. They're part of EA. They've worked on Battlefield. They've worked on Battlefront. They've worked with DICE. But now I guess this is like the official, like we're going to shake hands here, and this is us officially working on the next Battlefield game. We're going to be doing something. We'll see.
Yeah. I also found it weird because, so I just put a video up on this last night and I was doing the research for it. They were already part of EA. They got bought out in 2004 or something. So like, I don't get why it's like, welcome.
Yeah, why did they
them
say
to
welcome?
EA? It's like, what do you mean? You bought them
entertainment,
like 20 years ago, man. I don't really.
You know what it is? We
talked
talked about this a while ago. Remember how we were talking about? Was this in our Lost episode?
Maybe. There was a lot of talk about the like business side of it in that one, so it probably was.
Because they did make the announcement of EA Entertainment separate from EA.
True. That would be what it is then, yeah.
That's probably what it is. That's like
a good point.
Officially, unofficially, from a tax perspective or whatever, they decided now they're officially a part of EA Entertainment, whatever that means.
Yeah. That's
that's probably what it is.
Yeah, because I thought that when they announced it, I initially was like, hang on, I thought they already owned them.
But
then I was like, maybe I made that up in my head or something. But then I looked at who owned them and their parent company and that, and it was like they bought them in 05 or 04 or something. So yeah, but that makes
they've been around
sense.
forever, specifically for like an EA thing.
Yeah, because Need for Speed, did they make the original Need for Speed games, or have they just like recently done that?
I think they just recently took those on. Let's see. Criterion.
Because I think they were EA, weren't they? Need for Speed. I'm going to say Underground.
They did Need for Speed 2014.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so they are newer.
Oh, yeah, so EA did make that, but yeah, it was a different studio. Interesting. Anyway, yeah.
Interesting.
It's good that they've joined. I think the more, I mean, we've talked about this, the more studios on board, provided it's not too many, because I also think too many cooks in the kitchen, that's not a good thing. But I think it's just been proven time and time again that they need help. Like someone
desperately,
help us, please. They cannot launch a game successfully by themselves. We've seen now that they can't do it with help also, but maybe more help is needed. I think help and time is the thing. I think that you could put 100 studios on the game. If they launch it a year early, it's just not going to go well. But
they need, I'd say they need more. They need a stronger hand than they do need more studios. I feel like they need a level of commitment and a level of like they need that Respawn chutzpah, you know?
They're lacking something
need that.
At the moment, aren't they?
Because Respawn straight up told Lucasfilm, like, we're making a Jedi game or we're not making a Star Wars game. And DICE would never, because DICE is always like, please, Lord Disney, could you please approve our Luke skin?
Yeah,
in 17 years.
They seem very soft in the last few years, where they, they're a bit of a pushover studio, from what I can tell. No disrespect to the developers themselves, it's just as a whole, as a company, it seems like that. I'm sure the actual,
it's probably their age.
Yeah,
The
that's
studio's
other
been
thing.
around for 40 years. They've
Yeah.
acquired a bunch of studios to gain the mass that they have.
Yeah.
It's probably just a big ship that they take forever to turn.
Mm.
And that's
Yeah.
probably why, because Respawn's a lot newer, right?
Yeah, and I think they've got a much smaller team and stuff. I think that is part of it too. That we've seen the not just the age of the company, but the people working there were they'd been around a long time, and I think I don't know. I think they just maybe get stuck in their ways and just like aren't like it's more like that they're stubborn. And I think sometimes you do need young people coming in and sort of changing things up. Sometimes that can
But
be a
not
bad
too
thing
many of
too.
them, as we saw with Battlefield
Yeah.
2042.
Exactly. You need to get like some young, really good developers coming in. They need to be hiring those sort of people that they know they look at from other studios and they go like, that guy has got mad potential. Like he could run dice in 10 years, and bring them in because they will bring those ideas. You need those type of people who are going to, I guess, have strong leadership and stuff. Because if you bring in a bunch of developers who are just like yes men, sometimes that's good. Also, if you've got good leaders and you just need yes men, that's fine. But I think that was the issue, was that they, with Mr. Battlefield at the helm, for example, he'd been around so long, it's probably hard for a lot of people to say no to what he wants. And so because he's maybe stuck in his ways, you kind of, it just becomes a stale environment, I feel like. So I think that's part of it. And I think now with Vince at the helm, hopefully, like, he was the one who literally said to EA, like, no, we're making a Jedi game. I don't care what you say. We're doing what I want. And they said, like, they were like, yep, okay. And look at how it's turned out. So hopefully he just does the same thing. And they say, look, we need you to launch this game in 2024. And he says, no, sorry. Well, I'll launch it when I want to launch it. And then they go, okay, like we've seen your track record. Do what you want. And then it goes that way. Hopefully that's how it pans out. But yeah, it's obviously...
Give the people that save the game every single time control of the game. Because otherwise the rest of the team are going to be like, nope, this is great, let's just push it out, not having experienced the freaking hellscape that the rest of the team has put into after they've done anything like that. And then moving on into the future of Battlefield, we've had a very interesting, we still don't know the culmination of this yet, but they are hyping things up probably for something over the weekend. And it's this initiative that's very similar to what they did before launch of the game. And it is, they sent a bunch of cards and letters to a variety of content creators. And I checked the mail this morning. I don't know about you, but I didn't get anything. So it might have got lost in the mail.
I'm just gonna blame it on I moved house in the last few months, so just it must be at the old house or something. I'm not sure. Lost in the mail. I'm gonna
definitely. We totally got one.
Trust me, boys, I got it. I'll pick it up another day. We'll wait and see.
I told them no. I just shredded it. Sorry. But this is something that they're doing, is they have a whole initiative. Everyone got different cards from what I can tell. And it looks like everyone got different cards. I think they mostly say around the same thing. Let me just double check here. Yep, they do say the same thing, which is I have found them, the missing soldiers and specialists stolen from their squads and families. Let me find a better picture that I can read better. Working with an associate, I followed the trail of breadcrumbs. It started in Czechia. The transmission, the Archangel cargo, it led us to the Boreas lab, a tomb. I infiltrated the site. I uncovered a conspiracy larger than we thought possible. The NOPAD recovery initiative is a lie. Damage control. Archangel's way to get ahead of the Reed report. Reed report bombshell. To build trust in the public as they distance themselves from the Boreas' crimes. I've leaked pieces of the site schematic over the last several weeks. There's one final piece to share. finish the puzzle, expose the truth. There's few I can trust these days. I hope I can count on you to finish what I've started.
It's very
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would be a lot more invested in this if it was not in 2042.
Yeah, it's a weird... I don't know what they're... Obviously, we're going to find out. So it's... for me, I've kind of just been like, all right, I don't know what that means. So I'm just going to wait.
I'm not smart enough to do these Battlefield puzzle things ever. Every time I'm like, I wonder if I should do that. And I'm like, I can't. I don't have the brain level or capacity.
It's just a very... It's a weird time for them to do this is kind of what I'm getting at. Are they announcing something big here, or is this just like some random thing for like season 6? Because if this is all just for season 6 and we just get like a normal amount of content and they've done all this, then I'm going to be like, what? Like, not that it's a bad thing. I don't really care. It's more just like, that's weird to do that. If this was announcing, like we saw it with announcing the game, that made absolute sense, and the hype around that was awesome. But with this, it
seems like a weird artifact of what was set up, and now that the game's in a better cadence, they feel like, yeah, we can do this now. Yeah,
it's just it kind of makes it feel like they're gearing up for something bigger than just like, I feel like this can't just be an announcement for season 6 and they like, I don't know, they're going to announce the map or something, because what are they, if this was announcing and it talks about missing soldiers and specialists, if they were adding specialists still, then I would just be thinking like, oh, it's probably just, this is like gassing up the new specialist. It's going to be someone, maybe they're bringing back an old Battlefield character or
what if they brought in another specialist?
I don't know. It's a possibility, but the fact that they seemed definitely finished with them once they kind of accepted defeat and were like, okay, fine, we'll stop with the specialist system.
Yeah.
It seemed as though it's like, okay, well, that's done. That's in the past now. We've got it to a nice balanced spot, and they're in their classes and all that. Then again, they may have had more specialists pretty much done by then. Maybe they've got them just sitting there waiting. And so maybe they will add more. I don't know. It just seems really weird because I don't know what they can announce with this. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is that this almost seems too big for what I guess season 6 is going to be. I feel like it's just going to be a map, handful of weapons, battle pass, and that's kind of it. Limited time mode in the middle of the month, stuff like that. I don't think there's... I don't know. I don't feel like there's enough for them to announce to do something like this. So it makes it feel bigger. It makes me go, okay, are they going to announce the next game? Is this like, what are they doing here? But then also at the same time, I don't see that happening. I don't see them announcing the next game. I don't see them... This also makes it seem like they're not going to cancel anytime soon, because why would they do this and then like be like, all right, we've gassed all this up. But
why would they release the Celebration Edition a couple of months before the game's going to get cancelled?
Yeah, that's it. We've seen them do this stuff before. Maybe that's a good point. Maybe this is maybe they are like announcing the end of the game through gassing it up, and then they're like, by the way, this is the end of the game. Yeah, I don't know.
This is the end.
So it's very
Dan asks, Battle Royale ?
Yeah, like that's kind of what I mean, that it has to be something bigger. It can't just be season 6. Unless there's something big in season 6 that's like, I don't know, some sort of callback to like an old Battlefield game, or like, I don't know. That's kind of what I was saying with the specialist. If they were still adding specialists and they did this, I'd be then thinking like, oh, so we're probably going to get someone like a previous Battlefield character, like how Irish is in the game, because they're gassing it up. So it's got to be someone big, because they didn't do this for the first 4. So in if that was the case, in one way or another, this has to be a bigger specialist than the others.
Question for you. Could this be Battlefield 2042's relaunch moment? Is this something that, like, because I feel like now that the game is in a good spot, gameplay wise, as well as I feel like they've got a good cadence going. Is this the moment where DICE says we are committed to this game for at least another 6 months? Our plan is this. This is Battlefield 2042 2.0 or Battlefield 2042 2 or Battlefield 2043. However they want to do this, is this like the sign? Because I feel like they failed miserably with how they wanted to do with Battlefield 2042, because I felt like they wanted to try to do like a Respawn thing where they have like the cinematic trailers, they have all of this like cool information, that stuff going on simultaneously to all of the rest of the things. And this would have fit right in, because this is what Ben Walk went to DICE for, right? Moved positions. He's now on like the storyboard or story team, something along those lines.
Remember. He's like story producer. I know he's like a producer or something, but I can't remember if it is.
Yeah, and he's involved indirectly into this side of things. Mm. So, do you think this is the reboot?
It depends on. If they were to do that and do another, like, almost another celebration edition, but then it's, like, I think if you're going to do that, don't just give us another 2 seasons. If you're going to commit to it, commit to it for, like, 2 more years, I think. If you're going to fully relaunch the game, tell us, like...
You think 2 years is the time frame?
I do. I think you can't... Well, I'm not going to say you can't, but I feel like relaunching a game, like a soft relaunch, where we've seen that with like Rainbow Six. That's kind of why I think it. Rainbow Six had its issues, and they did a genuine relaunch, and it's still going.
Like that other game, I don't know where.
Yeah, so I just think if you relaunch it and then say like, okay, here's the new 2042.
Yeah, technically that'd be like what, 2 seasons maybe.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 2 seasons isn't enough. That it's like just don't reboot it. I don't know. It's just a weird, because I don't see that happening. That's the only reason. I think that's actually a really good point, that this could be some sort of like relaunch. Mm-hmm. But I don't really know if it warrants.
Don't hurt us like that. Don't give us hope and then take it away.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's kind of what I'm saying. If they do that, it'll be another celebration edition where we all go like, oh my God, does this mean we're getting like proper new content, like years worth, even a year worth, and then they're like 6 months later they're like, that's it. That'll just be so annoying. Like, just don't do that. Just don't relaunch it. Just continue doing what they're doing and just round it out nicely and end it wherever they need to end it, and then start work on the next one. Or obviously they already would have, but like, it's the only way I can see that happening. Then again, like I said, they just literally did that with Battlefront 2. So maybe the logic maybe goes a bit out the window there. But I just think if they're gonna relaunch it, it has to be like a long-term thing. I think if they do it, even a year, even if you relaunch a game and just give it 1 year, that's weird. Because
I feel like that's a decent amount of time. That gets us closer to. Yeah, there are different teams that are working on the live service than are working on the big game. You can't support the whole studio working on a live service. So let's just say it's the same kind of team. Maybe they've beefed it up a little bit. Maybe they haven't. But let's just say they beefed it up a little bit. And they say the main team at DICE and Criterion and Ripple Effect and who else is there?
Multiple others. I feel like we forget.
Ripple Effect, Ridgeline.
Yeah, Ridgeline.
Let's just say all of those people, they're working flat out to bring us the big boy, the big game, to reboot everything that's supposed to compete with Call of Duty, and they're working on that big game over here. But the rest of the team are saying, let's take this another year. Let's give our full development team even more time before they're expected to release everything. And I think let's talk about what they need to do that. I think they need to have they either need to have shorter seasons or they need to have more maps per season.
Yeah, that's kind of the other issue, is that if they do, like, I'm really curious to see what season 6 is, because if it's literally just what we've gotten in the previous seasons, but we obviously now take away specialists, we take away
and map reworks,
and it's just a map, a battle pass. Let's just say, even give them the benefit of the doubt and say 4 weapons instead of 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And a handful of portal weapons. That is just not enough. It was maybe enough early on because of the other stuff we're getting. Plus, also, I think because the game was being fixed a lot during those seasons, I think the bug fixes almost feel like content.
I was watching a video and the guy was talking about Battlefield 2042 and its views, his perspective on their views of a live service. And he said basically DICE's view of a live service is patches versus real content. And I think up until this point, you can make that argument pretty easily. And even to this point, you can, because the last update they did, it brought with it only bug fixes, which are great. But when you're like, oh, hey, here's our new map, but also 3/4 of the update is actually just changes to the game itself, I think it's hard to argue against that viewpoint.
Yeah, I think it's really weird. I actually said this in a previous video that, like, it's a good thing if they don't do bug fixes, because that essentially means the game's in a good enough spot that we probably don't need heaps of them, right? If they're not, if every update isn't getting heaps of bug fixes, it's probably a good thing. However, it also has the negative effect of, like, feeling like less for us, because we're so used to the game
so
getting
reliant.
Better. Yeah, that, like, if they take away the specialists and the map reworks, and then every update isn't actually fixing anything, which, like I said, is probably a good thing, it just feels like less. It just feels like now it's like one of the extra things they're taking away. So yeah, I don't see what they're going to do for season 6. That's going to be, I mean, maybe it seems as though they're gearing up for something, like all this stuff, all the little Easter egg stuff. I feel like they're not doing that for no reason. So there has to be something. Maybe season 6 is actually going to be big finally. But if it's not, and if it's just the same as the previous seasons minus that other content, I don't know how long they can go with that, because I think, like I said, season 1 through 4, we were okay with that because the game was still being fixed, and it was just like the early seasons. Whereas now, season 5 for me, just like, it was so flat compared to the previous seasons.
It was brutal. Or even this, like, let's relive the glory days event. Like, I haven't been drawn in as much as I thought I would.
When they announced it, I was kind of like, that's a pretty cool idea. Like, I'm down to see how that is. I've probably played 20 minutes in the whole month. Like, I just don't. It's just done nothing for me. And I think, look, maybe that's just me. Maybe everyone else is still having as much fun. But I feel like because we're a year on from, like, the start of season 1, if you do stuff at the same cadence, it's kind of not good enough, because, like I said early on, I think we were all kind of okay. We all still critiqued it. I think everyone said 1 map per season, that's not good enough. But we all kind of accepted it and we're like, okay, it's not enough, but I'm just going to see how it goes.
See how it goes.
All the maps were good.
It's their first time.
It was like bearable. Whereas now, if they do the same thing, it kind of feels like we should be past that. We should be not stuck in that, like, fixing the game era. We should be past it. And if they're just going to put content out at the same pace, I just don't think that's good enough. I think people will just really drop off towards, if they do season 7 and 8 and stuff. I don't know if I'll be there. I don't know if I can stick with this same amount of content for that long. That's another 9 months. That's a long time, man. I don't know if I've got the patience for that. I'm obviously going to jump on each time there's a new update, but I think it would be at that point where, like, I'll download the update, I'll jump on, I'll probably play, every day for the first week. I'll probably the next week I'll probably play once or twice, and then I'll probably come back for the next season. Like that's the point that I'm at with the game, unless they can do something more. And yeah, it's kind of a tough situation. They have to. The only way they can really fix that is, like you said, if they do some like sort of relaunch of the game.
Yeah.
Then that can bring the hype back, but I still don't know if they can relaunch it, and I just don't see them doing like multiple maps a season and whatever. I don't know what else they can add. That's my main concern about it.
Honestly, I think we're getting pretty bloated with the game. I think they've got too much going on in the game, and they've got too much, but not enough. Like, it's this weird situation because I feel like they've got tons of maps, but it doesn't feel like they've got tons of maps.
Yeah.
We only have the one game mode, really. There are variations on that, but like, there's just not a lot going on in the game. Like,
the content is, like you said before, a nothing burger. I feel like that's a lot of the content. Not to say, I think all the maps are good, but they're not like the peak Battlefield maps that we used to get. And so they I think they're good for this game, and I think they'd still be okay in previous games, but they're just not as exciting. And because it's just one, if we got 4 of them a season like we were with Battlefield 4 and they were all this good, that would be great. That would be, I would genuinely be saying that's good content. Like, that's a solid amount of content. But we're just not. We're getting one. So by the time the season's done, I'm sick of that map. I'm pretty sick of all the maps at this point.
Yeah, which is weird because you've got like battle royales where they literally have one map, and it feels like they have more content on that one map than all of Battlefield 2042. And Vic brings up a great point. He says there are tons of weapons, but it feels like there's only about 6, and that is exactly so true.
When you said they've got too much and it's bloated, that was the first thing I thought of. There is like, I don't even know at this point. There's probably like 50 plus weapons, isn't there?
There were a ton of weapons before when the game launched.
Yeah, I reckon I use maybe one from each class. So I'll probably use 2 assault rifles, the M5 and the AK. There's about 2 to 3 SMGs I use, and then I'll use a couple snipers. So like Vic said, there's probably 6 weapons that I use. And then every now and then I'll be like, all my gameplay is the same, like, weapons. I need to do some other stuff for the video's sake. I need to be playing with other weapons. And I play like one game and I'm like, that weapon is just not that good. It's weird because they're not really, I don't feel like this game has like a meta. Most other, like, say in Warzone, you had to use, there was like a set 3 or 4 weapons you had to use or you were not going to win. But then, it's so weird with this game. They're not meta weapons. But I think maybe it's just like the comfortability factor that I've just used those weapons for so long.
There's nothing bringing you to try anything else. Like, they all basically feel the same.
Yeah,
like, I literally only use, I think it's the SVK. Like, that's legit the only gun that I use in various formats. And every now and then I've been using, I think, the M16 more. The M5A3. That's what I've been using more. Those are the 2 guns. And like snipers, if you want to snipe, there's like 3 weapons.
All the snipers, even they all feel pretty much like the NTW is different because it's a one shot to the body. The rest of them are really just skins. They're not that different. They don't have their damage stats are slightly different, but it's like it's a 1-shot headshot or a 2-shot to the body, and they will have. You can't tell the difference in range. Like they're not that different, so they just sound different and look different. Which, to be fair, that's kind of it's like that with every shooter, really. But like,
I feel like they've tuned everything so much that everything feels the same.
Yeah, and that's really weird because that's probably a positive. It's the game's maybe like too balanced.
It's too balanced,
which sounds so weird because usually that's all I want in a shooter is it to be balanced. Yeah, but I think it's not so much with the balance of how they perform; it's the balance of how they feel. I think they all sound very similar. They all have pretty similar like rates of fire. There's not that much difference between the slowest shooting assault rifle and the fastest. They're not that different. They all
If you gave me a
very
random
similar.
gun in Battlefield 2042,
Yeah,
I probably couldn't tell the difference.
yeah. If you like gave me a gun that just was like Minecraft graphics, for example, and I couldn't tell what
Yeah.
it was, I don't think I could tell by how it feels. Whereas if you give me that in COD, I guarantee I could just about pick the gun,
Yeah.
even if I can't see what it looks like.
Or even in past Battlefield games, like go back to Battlefield 1, every single weapon had a different feel.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's also the maybe the lack of recoil. They're all very beamy. Like it's just you don't have much recoil control. They don't have different patterns. If one has recoil, it's like vertical recoil. They don't often have different patterns.
Yeah, they don't.
It feels like.
Yeah. Vic says it's really good if you hit your shots. Sums up every single weapon in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's no weapon. I try to do these challenge videos and like someone will be like, use the freaking worst gun and I'll just come first because it's not even a bad gun. It's like, you can't actually use in like other games. I feel like if you set me the challenge of like use a pistol in COD, I'd be like, oh man, that's going to be tough. In this game, and Vic will know this because he's edited them. Like someone challenged me to use the Deagle only, and I think I came third in the team. And it's like that should not happen. A pistol should not be competing with these other weapons. So that is a very good point. If you hit your shots, it really is just down to like how good you are. Just defines how the gun plays. Whereas in most other games, it's actually kind of to a degree. Obviously, if you're really good, you can make any gun good. But it's like.
It's like, okay, like Smash Bros. We've all played Smash Bros. It's like if every character played like Mario.
Yeah.
Like that's how the weapons feel. It's like Toon Link is different from Young Link, which is different from just Link. And that's just one character that has 3 different variations. Like they feel very different. One's slower, heavier. Toon Link is quicker. It has a more variety in his abilities. And then you go to Zero Suit Samus, quick, agile, but they can't really take a hit. Like there are like how many characters in Smash Bros is there now? Like 80 something.
A lot, yeah.
Every single one of them feels unique, and there are I don't know where they get this data from, but I looked up. How many guns does Battlefield 2042 have? And they say you can unlock 22, but this is from a while ago.
No, I think there was 20. That must be from launch because I think it launched with 22. So
and that's just Battlefield.
Yeah,
Like
that's not including
2042
the portal weapons, is it? Like,
I don't think so.
let me. I nearly want to load the game up and check, but I feel like it'll mess up the stream somehow. I'll go through my footage and just see because I think there's a lot. I think
there's
I would guess
crap
there'd be
ton.
like pushing 60 at this point, including the portal weapons. But there's a lot of weapons, and yeah, like Vic said, it's kind of like I don't know, you just kind of pick the same one. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I just pick the same ones, and I because of like making content, I actually actively force myself. I'm like, no, I just can't keep using this gun. I'm going to try a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, so there were 22 at launch, and that's not counting portal ones. Who's this Sammy boy guy? Well, I got suggested in one of your videos. Dan says, gotta disagree on this one. For example, go from the PBX to the AKS-74U to the AC-9. Very different RPM, range, stability, and recoil.
I would say the PBX and the AKS-74U they feel similar to me. Like they both feel like mid-range SMGs. That's more what I'm getting at. They do have different like fire rates and all that stuff. I'm not trying to say like they literally all have the same stats, but it's more those 2 weapons don't feel that much different to me, other than the AK sounds different because it's an AK. A PBX is not an AK. They all sound and look a bit different, but I don't know, they just don't.
They aren't as drastic. Like I feel like with all of those weapons, you can just be great with pretty much any one of those. Like you can have a base level of skill, and you can very easily go in between those.
Yeah.
But if you go to like, let's just say PUBG, for example, if you can use the frying pan to great success, but just because you can use the frying pan to great success does not mean you're going to be able to shoot well.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're getting at less than, technically they're all different. Vic says 47 guns.
Yeah. So that sounds about, I think I said around like 50 to 60. That's actually less than I thought, to be fair, but that's still a fair amount of guns. I'm pretty sure everyone always used to say, when this game launched, like Battlefield 4 had like 65 or 70 weapons. That had a lot of, a long life service. This isn't done yet. So we could end with, say, 55 for this game. That's not that different considering the issues the game's had than Battlefield 4. So there's a lot of guns. And I also think I wanted to Dan's point, there are definitely different guns. For example, the K30 or the Vector, like, that is drastically different than the PBX 45. It's not like there's no differences, but it's more like each class kind of has two weapons that are very drastically different, and all the ones in between are just identical. So there's like the K30 and then, the PBX or the AKS 74U. They're all very different from each other, but then if you take like the MP7 or MP9 or whatever it is in this game, and I don't know, the P90 and all those weapons, they all feel very similar. It's the same with like in the assault rifle class, there's, say, the SCAR has a slower rate of fire, and then probably say the M5 has a fast rate of fire, but most of the other ones in between, they just feel like essentially a mix of those two weapons, and they're all about in the middle. Yeah. So, it's not to say there is zero difference or that there's not different options, but it's more, there's only a couple of different options. If I want a fast-firing SMG, I'm going with the K30 literally every single time. There's not multiple of them to choose. The AC9 shoots quickly, but it's not as good, not as big of a magazine. So even the ones that are similar, or for the same profile, I guess, that a lot of them are just objectively not as good. So it's like, I'm not going to pick that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how there is a crossbow that's very different, but I'm not going to pick the crossbow, am I? It's not a very useful weapon. So
I always forget about that.
Yeah.